Thomas Jefferson was a formidable intellectual powerhouse. He devoured the works of Locke, Bacon, and Newton, and used those Enlightenment philosophies to forge the ideological weapons of the American Revolution. This document is the original preamble of the Declaration of Independence. It contains a single sentence that would eventually echo across the globe to define modern democracy. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. This chart visualizes a stark contrast to those words. For every stroke of liberty Jefferson penned, a different reality existed on his ledger. Over his lifetime, the man who authored that immortal sentence personally claimed ownership over more than 600 human beings. He recognized the brutal reality of the system. He wrote in private that slavery was a profound moral flaw and an economic error. Yet he relied entirely on the wealth it generated, and he frequently expressed fears that Black and white people could never coexist in free society. We cannot simply brush these actions aside as the flaws of a man of his time. Jefferson held both the highest ideals of human liberty and the absolute authority of human oppression at exactly the same moment. He is the American paradox made flesh. Following the Revolution, his political rise was swift. He served as minister to France, became George Washington's first Secretary of State, and eventually stepped into the role of vice president under John Adams. In the election of 1800, he defeated Adams to become the third president of the United States. He viewed this victory as a revolution in its own right, securing decades of dominance for his Democratic-Republican Party and its strict limits on federal power. This map displays the Louisiana Purchase of 1803. Despite his preference for limited government, Jefferson used massive federal authority to acquire this vast Western territory from Napoleon. For $15 million, the transaction doubled the physical footprint of the United States overnight. To understand exactly what the nation had just bought, he dispatched Meriwether Lewis and William Clark on a multi-year expedition to survey and map the new frontier. His administration achieved a string of other victories, sharply reducing the national debt, cutting military spending, and successfully fighting the Barbary Wars to protect American trade ships in North Africa. These aggressive expansions of federal influence were all calculated to build what he called an empire of liberty, a massive agrarian republic designed to empower independent, land-owning farmers. That agrarian ideal found its most personal expression at Monticello. For decades, Jefferson continuously designed and rebuilt this mountaintop estate as a neoclassical utopia. But the elegant architecture and manicured gardens were entirely sustained by captive labor. The wealth required to fund his intellectual pursuits, purchase his books, and build his home was extracted directly from the enslaved workers who lived out of sight in the estate's quarters. Among these enslaved people was a domestic servant named Sally Hemings. Historians and historical records widely indicate she was the half-sister of Jefferson's late wife, Martha. When she accompanied Jefferson to Paris during his time as a diplomat, Hemings found herself in a country where she could have legally secured her freedom. Instead, she used French law to negotiate specific favorable terms with Jefferson before agreeing to return to Virginia. Decades of historical research and modern DNA evidence strongly conclude that Jefferson fathered at least 6 children with Hemings. This long-term relationship lays bare the agonizing hypocrisy of a man who championed liberty while exploiting the people he held in bondage. While he occasionally drafted plans for gradual emancipation in his political writing, he never applied those principles to his own life. Crippled by immense personal debt in his final years, he died without freeing the vast majority of the people he enslaved. Monticello remains a beautiful structure, but it also stands as the exact geographical point where Jefferson's empire of liberty came to a hard, unforgiving stop. In his retirement, Jefferson poured his remaining energy into one final architectural and educational project, designing the campus and curriculum for the University of Virginia. He passed away on July 4, 1826, alongside his friend and political rival John Adams, exactly 50 years to the day after the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence. Before his death, he carefully drafted the text for his own tombstone. He chose to be remembered for just 3 things: author of the Declaration of Independence, of the Statute of Virginia for Religious Freedom, and father of the University of Virginia. The engraving is entirely silent on his 2 terms as president. It masks the staggering debts that consumed his estate, and it erases the hundreds of enslaved men, women, and children who made his entire world possible. We cannot reconcile the Thomas Jefferson who wrote the blueprint for American democracy with the Thomas Jefferson who bought and sold human beings. Instead, we have to look at the entire ledger. True liberty is not a finished product handed down from 1776. It is an ongoing, difficult pursuit that requires total honesty about our past.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. It really helps us.